It looks like the legislative draft we covered yesterday has driven the entire crypto space insane over a span of about 24 hours. I said that this would be the rise of new overlords. What I didn't expect was that we would immediately see a landslide of emotion, drama, and conflict within crypto. It seems like a lot of pent up feelings and intentions have been released by this draft bill, but it shouldn't have been a surprise. That's because of the true nature of governance. This draft law is just governance in action. And governance is really just the complex arbitration of who gets to do what. This applies to social issues, but it also applies to who gets to make what money. Right now, we're seeing the beginnings of exactly that conflict getting hashed out in crypto. Who gets to run the most lucrative crypto businesses? The people doing it now, which is pretty much anybody who can build it, or only the large institutions who want all that for themselves? Ready? Let's go. Today, we are going to discuss the fallout from the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act draft leak, including some items related to Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, BitBoy, a U.S. congressman, and some personalities from Bitcoin and Ethereum. I really didn't think we'd be talking about this 2 days in a row, but a lot's happened. If your reaction when you saw the title to today's video was, "Bruh, enough with the regulatory stuff. I'm just trying to enjoy my Bitcoins and my JPEGs." Listen, I know, I get it, but this is important. We have to talk about it. Or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Also, I am still open to sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor a video or multiple videos, let me know on Twitter. Also, we haven't hung out in the metaverse in a while. So this video is going to come out on Friday, October 21st. The night of the day this video comes out, 9 p.m. Eastern. So Friday, October 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to live stream from Carta Station. So grab a drink, come on by Carta Station if you want to, and we'll all hang out, have some drinks. I'll live stream it, and we'll see if any fun can be had. Carta Station is one of the few metaverse projects in Cardano that you can walk around in right now. So let's go see what's up in Carta Station. They aren't sponsoring this in any way. In fact, they don't even know we're coming, but feel free to join me tonight, Friday night, October 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll post some coordinates on Twitter. Oh man, big dust up in crypto today. A lot of people very, very angry, not the least of which was BitBoy. I'll give you a taste of the anger right here. Look at this microphone shaking. He's pointing at himself, pointing to the side, even pointing right at you with the camera. In a second, he's going to start hitting the desk. Even the desk was an offender. He had to attack the desk. That's how angry he was. Look at that. There it is. The hammer fist to the desk. Even the desk had to pay the price. So why was everybody so angry today? Let's start from the beginning. You remember this document from yesterday. This is the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act draft that was leaked recently. And this framework for crypto as commodities governed by the CFTC, some of them securities governed by the SEC, would basically require almost all DeFi platforms to register as digital commodities platforms with the CFTC and follow a whole bunch of rules that would basically gut DeFi, sort of like permissionlessness out the window, a bunch of other hallmarks of decentralization out the window. They would have to boot users for a variety of different, sort of rule infractions, all those kinds of things you imagine under a federal regulator. Basically, this framework says, hey, yeah, you're welcome to do finance, but just the FI part, not the D part. Let's just do the FI part, the finance part, not the decentralized part. That's basically how this would turn out. And you can also imagine that if you have to jump through all these hoops, do all these things, a lot of these things are not going to be things that DeFi protocols are going to want to do or be able to do. Like a lot of the hiring a compliance officer and kind of having a compliance department that does a bunch of compliance things. These aren't going to be things that DAOs and, DeFi platforms are going to be good at because they're decentralized. So, of course, what would probably happen is a bunch of larger institutions would jump in and fill the vacuum created by these DeFi platforms that are unable to do all the stuff that's better done by centralized platforms. So you'd have some probably crypto native larger institutions coming in, probably the centralized exchanges coming in and filling that void. And you probably also have a bunch of the traditional finance players coming in and filling that void as well. But in any case, it would probably be larger institutions that would be good at complying with a framework like this. Among those are the big centralized exchanges, like I said, like a Coinbase or a Binance or a Kraken or an FTX. Lo and behold, Sam Bankman-Fried also dropped this. As promised, my current thoughts on crypto regulation, and linked this article, Possible Digital Asset Industry Standards. When we come over here to Sam's article, we can see what he has in mind. He wants to talk about sanctions. He says, maintaining a block list is a good balance, prohibiting illegal transfers and freezing funds associated with financial crimes while otherwise allowing commerce. He says everyone should respect OFAC's sanctions lists, which, by the way, is already the law. To make this cleaner, there should be an on-chain list of the sanctioned addresses, updated in real time, maintained either by OFAC or by a responsible actor. So he's saying that OFAC should get to maintain an on-chain list of sanctioned addresses. They could just throw addresses in there and instantly the chain would abide by that sanctions list that's incorporated right into the chain. He says, if this were updated quickly and immediately on chain, we could make responses and asset freezing effectively instantaneous. It seems like when you read this, that his biggest concern is not whether or not the chain should be censored, but how quickly can we censor the chain? He's also got some advice for everyone on hacks. He says, the way we should deal with hacks is through something he calls the 5-5 standard. He says, the friendly hacker should go ahead and return enough funds to pay off all of the customers so the customers get all their money back. And then the hacker should be allowed to keep the smaller of 5% or 5 million. I don't know about you guys, but I think 5 million, this being the cooperative case where the hacker wants to cooperate with the platform, the chance of getting to keep $5 million is a pretty gigantic bug bounty. That's a pretty gigantic incentive for any hacker to spend a pretty large amount of time trying to find an exploit in a platform. And this is assuming that the hacker wants to cooperate. I mean, we've seen this. Some people who've executed on exploits, even very recently, have wanted to cooperate with the platform and receive some kind of clemency for their crimes, to be exonerated of their crimes somehow if they return, some portion of whatever they stole. So you can imagine that people haven't been crazy about this solution ever. A lot of people seem to think it's unrealistic, that a lot of the exploiters won't actually want to return any of it. They'll just walk away with all of it. We know that's not always the case, but for sure, sometimes I think it would be the case. And also, I think a lot of people, are kind of balking at the idea that the exploiter should get to keep, up to $5 million, because that's a pretty large amount of money. In Sam Bankman-Fried's world, maybe that's not a lot of money, but I think for the average person in crypto, $5 million, that's quite a bit of money. So people aren't crazy with his solution as to the robbery forest either. He's got a section here on asset listings. What is a security? He says, ideally, we'd end up in a place as an industry where being a security is not a bad thing, where there are clear processes for registering digital asset securities, which protect customers while allowing for innovation. Yeah, I think that would be some kind of great utopia as well, Sam. But I'm not so sure that our buddy Gary Gensler over the SEC would be able to evolve enough to make being a security not a bad thing in crypto. I think there would have to be quite a bit of restructuring of how the securities regulations were going to interact with some kind of a crypto asset that's deemed a security before it could ever be not a bad thing to be a security. Unless, of course, you're a gigantic financial institution like FTX. In that case, you're actually big enough to comply with some of that securities law stuff. So, not a bad thing in the securities world. It's probably very different for an FTX and a Sam Bankman Fried than it is for a lot of the rest of the crypto world. He's also got a section on tokenized equities here. I think he's probably right. Long run, he's probably right about tokenized equities. He says there's a limit on how much money retail can make in the current equities market structure. That's certainly true. He says, I think that tokenizing stocks could help simplify security settlement, providing a stronger and more equitable market structure for retail. I think that's probably true too. I think there's a lot of ways you could restructure the current equities markets to be better for retail, and maybe tokenizing them in crypto would be one of those. He's also got a section here on customer protections, disclosures, and suitability. And I think he actually makes a really good point here. He says, I support implementing knowledge-based quizzes rather than asset-based ones to determine product suitability. You might already know that in the normal securities world right now, there's a big divide between accredited investors and non-accredited investors. Basically, if you're rich enough, they say, have at it. You can invest in a wide range of things. And if you're not rich enough, they say, oh, you are not a sophisticated enough investor to invest in certain things. And some of those certain things are early stage investments in enterprises of basically all types. If you're not rich enough, they don't let you get in on those early rounds, which doesn't sound very just to the people who aren't rich enough. Generally, people aren't rich enough, are opposed to this, and you can understand why. What he's suggesting here is, instead of these are you rich enough type standards, how about we just have knowledge-based quizzes to determine if you're sophisticated enough to understand the investment you're making? I agree with that, actually. It's not a bad idea. Here's the section that's really making people angry. This is the DeFi section. In this section, he starts out saying some things that people probably like. Decentralized code is speech. A lot of people in DeFi are going to agree with that. That's one of the big calls to arms. Hey, this is speech. Software is speech. You're actually infringing upon our freedom of speech by regulating our software here. And they have a certain type of point about that, I think. But he gets into some other territory here that those same people do not like very much. He says, you don't need a financial license to upload code to the blockchain. Okay, so far, so good. Similarly, validators have a core duty to correctly validate blocks, not to judge or police them. Okay, also great. However, and here's where we get into the weird territory, the following activities would potentially require some license, registration, etc. Hosting a website on, for example, AWS that provides a US retail front end for decentralized protocols, or marketing DeFi products to US retail investors, which is what a huge amount of the DeFi world is doing. He's making a division here between the protocol itself, which is maybe like a smart contract, and the front ends of the protocol, the websites through which people are accessing those protocols, and the marketing of the products of those protocols to US retail investors. So this is the piece that's making people really mad. He says, on-chain code and DeFi should remain free and open and uncensored, unless you're hosting the front end or you're marketing any of those products to US retail investors. Of course, that would also kind of make you a competitor to FTX if you're doing any of those things. And again, here we run into this collision where the interests of a large financial institution like FTX are very different than the interests of virtually any DeFi platform. The FTX is the world. A lot easier for them to comply with all the regulations that would be involved with licensing, registration, etc. He says it here in just three words. I mean, more than that if you count all the Latin words here. But he says require some licensing, registration, etc. That can actually become a really big deal if you look through the requirements for a digital commodities platform in this draft bill that just came out, then you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff you'd have to do that an FTX would be pretty good at, but your average DeFi protocol would not be good at. Finally, his last section is on stablecoins. He says stablecoins present a huge opportunity to modernize and democratize payments. The any stablecoin holding itself out to be stable relative to the US dollar should be backed by at least as many US dollars or federal government issued treasury notes and bills as there are stable coin tokens in circulation, and should maintain up-to-date and public information audits and testing as such. So if you are a fan of the idea of algorithmic stablecoins, things like JED, you're just out of luck. In the Sam Bankman-Fried world, there is definitely no room for a JED. So, no surprise, you can see that Sam's thoughts on crypto regulation seem to be pretty okay for a platform like his, FTX, and not so good for the world of DeFi, which are basically competitors to FTX. And people notice this. Bitcoin, of course, doesn't really have a dog in the DeFi fight. I mean, kind of, but not as much as Ethereum. So you saw responses like this from the Bitcoin maximalist crowd. Is this what is best for FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried? Nope, it's definitely not what's best for FTX, but that's okay. Well, if it's not what's best for FTX, it's even more so not what's best for the world of DeFi. Of course, Ethereum definitely does have a dog in the DeFi fight, and Ethereum personalities were a bit more harsh. Here we have this post: Sam, with respect, this absolutely sucks. You're saying DeFi should be OFAC. You're saying on-chain freezes should be normal. You're saying DeFi front ends to register as a broker-dealer. No, this is not reasonable. This would eliminate the US from the crypto race. Of course, BitBoy went even further. He said, "Hope you are ready, bud," in response to Sam Bankman-Fried. Sam Bankman-Fried responded, "Having fun shilling Nance." I assume that's a reference to Binance. And then this poster kind of interceded and said, according to BitBoy, he has confirmed Sam is working behind the scenes with politicians to push a federal bit license, which he will have first to try and make FTX have monopolistic power over the space. And he wants to make all DeFi illegal like Uniswap. Please, Sam, don't. Of course, I'm just reading someone else's post here. These are not my thoughts, beliefs, or speech. Sam Bankman-Fried responded, "That is definitely not what I'm doing." BitBoy responded, "Big words coming from someone who literally used VC money to pump up Solana. People see through you. You are a liar and you know it. Don't worry, our bill is going public soon. And then I can tell the whole story. Your policy team held us up and then tried to steal our backers." And the Ethereum personality decided to come through as well and said, "Please, dear Lord, and any lawmakers or adults reading this tweet, just know BitBoy doesn't represent us either." To which BitBoy responded, "Actual legislators don't care about meme culture," and then called the Ethereum guy a name. The name's not important, and a few people came through, at least in my timeline, that shows this. It basically only seems to show people coming out in support of BitBoy or reminding the Ethereum guy that he doesn't represent them either. This guy says he represents us more than you do. This one says, "Poor taste. Now is the time. Now is not the time to be tearing each other down. You both provide good content and will be better friends than enemies." This guy just putting up the popcorn meme. This one says, "And neither do you." This one right here might actually be my favorite. "You represent no one. You're a nobody. You think you are an elite? Well, you're not. And if you really believe that you are, the elite are going to lose in the end. We, the people, gonna win. BitBoy is one of us. I respect him." And then they capped it all off with the saluting emoji. This all led to the very angry BitBoy, who was angry both at the Ethereum guy and at Sam Bankman-Fried, who he referred to as a devil, along with at least one other person who's involved with centralized exchanges. And BitBoy, if you watch the whole video, he tells kind of a long, drawn-out story of what he was doing, as far as it sounds like trying to get some legislation through the state of California legislature, it sounded like, and some interactions maybe with someone on Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX team. It's a little convoluted, hard to tell what's going on, but BitBoy promises that there will be more. He'll have more info available soon. But the amazing part was we're seeing exactly the kinds of fireworks you sort of expect to see. If governance is just this sort of hashing out of who gets to do what, crypto is now confronted with this very big question of who gets to do the DeFi stuff. Is it the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world, the FTXs, the big centralized exchanges, probably some traditional finance players who come in and set up, competing entities that would compete with the FTXs of the world? Or is it the people doing it now who are pretty much just anybody who is willing and able to build out the platform to fit whatever niche it was in DeFi? I think both things, there are good and bad things about both sides of that. These two sort of groups of potential participants are in conflict right now. And governance is really the act of hashing out who gets to do this thing. Is it only the big platforms, or is it the big platforms and these little DeFi actors that we have right now? So on the plus side of more regulation would be a solution to this situation we have now, where if you just let anybody participate who's able and willing to build out the platform, you get a lot of good actors, but you get some bad actors too. There are a lot of people being, I'll go ahead and say, cheated. A lot of people being cheated in various ways in crypto in general. We can just say crypto in general. We don't even have to limit it to DeFi. We can say there are a lot of DeFi projects that come along, a lot of crypto projects that come along that turn out to be rug pulls, or maybe there are exploits that could be inside jobs, all kinds of things. People getting involved in projects without having the proper disclosure. There are a lot of these types of things going on, and regular retail customers do lose funds to these bad actors. It's something that happens all the time in crypto. With more regulation, you'd be trying to solve that problem. But with more regulation, what tends to happen is a centralizing effect. There's a chilling effect on smaller players, and it's the FTXs of the world who are generally most easily able to satisfy those regulations. Right now, we're hashing out this issue. Everybody knows there are some bad actors in crypto. I think we would all admit that. There's definitely a robbery forest in crypto. And not all of them are just black hat hackers who come along. Some of them are the people running the project who end up being the bad actors. And more regulation, might help mitigate that problem, but it also might end up keeping out all of the good actors who are currently doing DeFi stuff. This is what governance is, and it usually does involve these kinds of fireworks. If all of that back and forth discussion makes you think that everybody in crypto is just out for themselves and Washington doesn't really care, there are some glimmers of hope. Here's a post from Congressman Tom Emmer, who says, "Decentralization is the point. If we sacrifice DeFi for legislation, we're throwing away the opportunity." This sounds like something one of us in crypto would say, and it's something that I think almost everybody in crypto would agree with. Nobody wants to sacrifice DeFi, and everybody kind of agrees decentralization is the point. Okay, maybe some people at some large centralized exchanges would be happy to sacrifice DeFi, but all of us regular people in crypto, I think a lot of us would agree with this. If you're not an optimist, you might say, hey, this is just a typical politician pandering to a certain demographic, the crypto demographic in this case. But hey, even if that were the case, at least they're pandering in the right direction toward crypto. At least they're not pandering to the anti-crypto crowd. But I'm glad to see anything like this out of Washington from pretty much anyone in Washington. It seems like Washington is getting smarter and smarter about crypto every single day. I hope you had a great week. I hope you're gearing up for a great weekend. Join me in Carta Station tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I'll talk to you soon.